My blind date was 30 minutes late. Then she looked at me and said, "You have kind eyes." I almost left. I want you to know that. I want you to understand that I was this close minus 2 fingers. Barely a breath apart minus to dropping $40 on the table. Standing up from that perfect corner booth at Aurelio's and walking back out into the warm Chicago evening, air like none of this had ever happened. 30 minutes. I had waited 30 full minutes. My name is Caleb Hartman. I am 31 years old. I work in urban architecture, and I design buildings that are meant to last 100 years. But I couldn't last 30 minutes at a dinner table without my confidence slowly crumbling like old plaster. The restaurant around me buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, and the low murmur of conversations that belonged to people who knew exactly why they were there. A couple in the far corner shared a dessert and whispered secrets. A group of colleagues celebrated someone's promotion with a champagne toast. The city skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, like a postcard someone had forgotten to send. And me, I sat alone, pretending to be fascinated by the breadbasket. My friend Darius had set this up. "Her name is Naomi," he'd said, leaning against my drafting table like he owned the place. "She is smart. She is warm. She volunteers at an animal shelter on weekends. You are going to love her." I'd rolled my eyes. Darius had terrible taste in movies and outstanding taste in people, so I figured the odds were in my favor. I'd arrived at 6:58, 2 minutes early, because that is just who I am. By 7:15, I'd texted Darius, "She is not here yet." He responded with a thumbs-up emoji, which was absolutely no help. By 7:25, I'd rearranged the silverware twice and read the menu so thoroughly I could have recited it in my sleep. The waiter minus a patient young man named Theo, bless him minus, had checked on me 4 times, with increasingly sympathetic eyes. By 7:30, I made the decision. I was leaving. I reached for my jacket, and then the door opened. She came in like someone who had been running minus not just tonight, but maybe for a while. Her blonde hair was half up, half escaping whatever she'd tried to do with it. Her green dress was perfect, elegant even, but she was clutching her small bag against her side like it was holding her together. Her eyes swept the room with a particular kind of panic, minus the panic of someone who already knows they've made a mistake and is bracing for the consequences. Our eyes met. She stopped walking. For one strange, suspended second, neither of us moved. The restaurant kept going around us, minus the clinking, the laughter, Theo carrying a wine bottle to table 7 minus. But in our small corner of the world, everything went quiet. Then she walked toward me. I stood up, I don't know why. It felt like the right thing to do. She stopped at the table and looked up at me, and her expression was so complicated minus so full of apology and exhaustion, and something else I couldn't name yet. Minus that I completely forgot I had been about to leave. "Caleb," she said. "Naomi," I said. She closed her eyes briefly. "I am so sorry. I know. I know it has been minus, I know. And I completely understand if you want to." "Sit down," I said, not unkindly. Just simply. She blinked. Saturday. For a moment she just looked at her water glass, and I could see her collecting herself, the way you collect scattered papers after the wind catches them. 1 breath. 2. Then she looked up at me minus really looked. The way people rarely look at each other on first dates, which tend to involve a lot of looking at each other without actually seeing anything. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said quietly, almost to herself, "You have kind eyes." I didn't know what to do with that. "I've been told I have my grandmother's eyes," I said finally. She was a retired school teacher from Ohio, so I'll take it. Something shifted in Naomi's face. The tension didn't disappear, but it softened minus like a fist slowly opening. "I am sorry I was late," she said again, but differently this time. Not the panicked apology of someone expecting to be punished. Something more honest. It wasn't traffic. I mean, minus it was traffic, But that wasn't the real reason I almost didn't come in. I waited. She turned her water glass slowly with both hands. I've been on 3 blind dates in the past year. Darius set up 2 of them. She gave a short, wry laugh. The first guy spent the entire dinner talking about his ex-wife. The second one actually asked me what I thought about prenuptial agreements on a first date. That is aggressive, I said. I was in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes tonight, she admitted, just sitting there, telling myself it was fine. It would be fine. It is just dinner, Naomi. It is just a person. Just go inside. She paused. And then I was 10 more minutes late because I had to redo my mascara. Bye. May. I looked at her minus this woman who had clearly been through something, who had dressed up and shown up anyway, who had walked in with her chin lifted, even though her hands were shaking slightly, who had looked at a stranger across a restaurant and instead of offering an excuse, had offered something true. For what it is worth, I said. I was putting on my jacket to leave when you walked in. Gend. Nispain. Her eyes went wide. Really, really. She laughed. Minus a real one, surprised out of her, and it was a wonderful laugh. The kind that makes you want to say something funny again immediately just to hear it. So we almost both gave up. We almost both gave up, I agreed. Theo appeared visibly relieved that I now had company and a reason to actually order something. We asked for another few minutes. When he left, Naomi picked up her menu, and I noticed her shoulders had dropped about 2 inches minus the particular drop. That means someone has decided to stay. We talked for 3 hours. I know that sounds like something people say in romantic stories to indicate that time flew. But I want to be specific, because the details matter to me. We talked about architecture, and about how Naomi thought most modern buildings looked like gray filing cabinets for humans, which offended me professionally and delighted me personally. We talked about the shelter where she volunteered minus a scrappy little operation on the west side, called Second Chance Pause Minus, and about a 3-legged terrier named Biscuit, who had been there 8 months and who Naomi was quietly, desperately trying not to adopt. You are going to adopt that dog, I told her. I live in a 600-square-foot apartment, she said. You are going to adopt that dog, I said again. She pointed her fork at me. You don't know me. I know you've been visiting a 3-legged dog every weekend for 8 months, and you named him Biscuit. The shelter named him Biscuit. Did they? She opened her mouth, closed it. I may have suggested it. I laughed, and she laughed, and the couple at the next table glanced over at us with small smiles, the way people smile when they witness something that feels like the beginning of something good. We talked about our families. She was from Atlanta originally. Minus had come to Chicago for a job in nonprofit fundraising, and stayed because, as she put it, the city got its hooks in me. She had a younger sister who called her every Sunday, and a mother who sent care packages with too many granola bars and notes, written on actual stationery. I told her about growing up in a small Indiana town, about drawing floor plans for imaginary houses when I was 8 years old, about my grandmother, minus the one with the kind eyes, minus, who used to say that the most important thing you could build was a life that felt like home. Naomi got quiet when I said that. That is a beautiful thing to say, she said. She was a beautiful person, I said. The restaurant had thinned out around us. Theo had stopped hovering and started leaving us alone, which felt like a gift. The skyline outside had shifted from dusk blue to full dark. The city lights scattered like something spilled and sparkling. At some point, we stopped looking at each other carefully and started just looking. Easy, natural. The way you look at something you've decided you trust. When we finally asked for the check, Naomi reached for her bag. Don't, I said. Caleb, you can get the next one, I said. She went still, for just a moment. Then, that is a very confident assumption. I have kind eyes, I said. People trust me. She laughed so hard she had to put her hand over her mouth, and I thought, there it is. That is the laugh I want to hear again. We stood outside on the sidewalk after, in that specific kind of city night that smells like summer and possibility. Naomi had her bag over one shoulder and was looking up at me with an expression that was still a little cautious, but mostly warm, mostly open. I almost didn't come in, she said again, softer this time. I am glad you did, I said. She nodded slowly. Me too. We said goodnight the way people say goodnight when they're already thinking about hello minus a little reluctant, a little bright. She walked to the parking garage. I walked to the train. I pulled out my phone and texted Darius. You were right. He responded in 12 seconds flat with 17 exclamation points, which told me he'd been waiting. That was 8 months ago. Last weekend, I helped Naomi move into a bigger apartment. 750 square feet, minus enough room, she said very casually, for a small dog. Biscuit currently has his own corner with a plaid bed and approximately 47 toys. And he greets me every time I come over like I am the best thing that has ever happened to him, which is generous, given that he has 3 legs and a plaid bed and 47 toys. I am designing something right now minus not a building this time. Something smaller. A question, really, built carefully, with attention to detail and a view of the skyline she loves. My grandmother used to say the most important thing you could build was a life that felt like home. I think she was right. I think I am almost there. Sometimes the best things in life almost don't happen. Almost. And isn't that the most terrifying, most wonderful word? Almost left. Almost gave up. Almost missed it entirely. Don't leave before the miracle.